Everyone, this video is going to be about a very important topic before you can get very far at all in math, and it's called the order of operations. Now, the order of operations is something that sort of just everyone agreed on. This is how things work, and it solves the problem. Say you had something like 5 plus 3 times 4. Now you could look at this and the question is, it's sort of ambiguous. Is this 8 times 4? Or is it, looking at it the other way, 5 plus 12, if you take 3 and 4 together first? So 8 times 4 is 32, 5 plus 12 is 17. So you can see these aren't the same. It matters which one you do first. And the order of operations is a way of removing any ambiguity with that. So before we can get into what the actual order is, we need to talk about one more thing, and that's parentheses. So parentheses, just something like this, or just a way of separating any other variables. So 5 plus 3 times 4, you can put parentheses in here. You just use them to surround whatever you want in your expression. So the order of operations is best remembered, well, I guess the way I always learned it was, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So this is just a mnemonic to help you remember what the order is for everything. And what this translates into is parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. So what this means is that whenever you have an expression, you're going to do whatever is in parentheses first. After that, you're going to do exponents. Then you do multiplication and division just at the same time from left to right. And then finally you do addition and subtraction. So let's look at a couple examples, keeping in mind this mnemonic, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So say you had something like 2 plus 3 squared in parentheses multiplied by 4 plus, I'll say minus 6 divided by 3. So again, this is the same kind of thing. Is this 2 plus 3, which is 5 squared, which would be 25? Is this 4 minus 6? Is this, you do everything and then divide by 3? So order of operations tells us to start with please or parentheses. So we're going to do everything that's inside the parentheses first. Now that we're inside the parentheses, we need to look at it again. So we have addition and we have an exponent. So just going through, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, you have excuse, which is an exponent, that comes before aunt, which is addition. So you take this down and you get, so you're going to do this before you do the addition. So this becomes, staying within the parentheses, 2 plus 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, which is 9, times 4 minus 6 divided by 3. So now we're going to stay in the parentheses, because we still have to do parentheses first after we simplified it this far. and we're going to get that this is equal to 11 times 4 minus 6 divided by 3. Okay, so now parentheses don't really contain anything anymore. Well, it contains the 11, but it doesn't have any other operations, so the parentheses don't really mean anything at this point. So this is just 11 times 4 minus 6 divided by 3. So start with parentheses, then excuse is exponents, don't have any of those anymore. And then we've got my dear is the next step. So that means we do multiplication and division before we do any addition and subtraction. So that means we have to compute this and this, and then we'll subtract those two. So we've got 11 times 4 is 44, and then minus this side, 6 divided by 3 is 2. So we just did this side, did the multiplication, then we do the division, and then we do the subtraction after we do multiplication and division. So this is 42. Okay, so that's going through all of these. You end up with 42. Let's do one more. Um, 2 to the third plus 7. I'll make it 8 to make it work out. 2 to the third plus 8 divided by 4. I'll do this in parentheses, raise that to the 4th power. Then I'll say minus, actually, you know what? Here's what I'll do. I'm going to do all of this divided by 2. Now when you have a big fraction like this, you've got a big numerator and a big denominator. So you just got one thing on top, one thing on bottom. Whenever you have something like this, you can think of it as big parentheses on top, big parentheses on bottom. So you're going to evaluate everything on top, then everything on bottom, then divide them. Okay, so these two parentheses, two big outer ones, are what we're going to do first. So really, there's nothing to evaluate on bottom, and we just have to evaluate everything on top before we divide. So what we really need to look at, we're going to keep 2 on bottom, and we need to evaluate everything on top here before we divide. So looking inside, we've got one thing of parentheses here, 8 divided by 4. So that's the first thing we do, is what's inside these parentheses. So that's 2 cubed plus, and then 8 divided by 4 is 2. 2 to the 4th. So we've got 2 cubed plus 2 to the 4th divided by 2. So now we do, after parentheses, we do exponents. So remember, these parentheses, now that we've solved everything in them, we effectively don't even need them. So we do all the exponents at the same time. We've got 2 to the third, which is 2 times 2 times 2, plus 2 to the 4th, and all of this divided by 2. So 2 to the third is 2 times 2, which is 4 times 2, which is 8. So we've got 8 plus, doing this multiplication before we do the addition. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, times 2 again is 16. So one more step here. Remember, we've got big parentheses up here, so we're going to do this addition before this division. So 8 plus 16 is 24. And then we've got the divided by 2, and that's 12. So things to keep in mind here, in a fraction you can imagine big parentheses on top and one on bottom. If you have parentheses inside another set of parentheses, you just start on the innermost one and work your way out. And that's similar to what we did before. It's just go into these parentheses. What do you do first? You do what's in the parentheses. Let's see, one last thing I'll mention is that sometimes instead of parentheses you'll see brackets. So instead of something like parentheses 8 plus 3 times 2, you might see these square brackets. These two lines are the same thing. It's just two ways of writing the exact same thing. These brackets don't have any special meaning, but it's one way you'll see it. Okay, so that's order of operations. Just remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And that should take care of it.